On that day that was supposed to be a celebration, the weight of the dress came not only from the embroidery, but from secrets on the verge of collapsing. Amid rehearsed smiles and words too sweet to be true, a dangerous game of manipulation and interest was concealed. A wedding seemed to be just the perfect culmination of a meticulous plan, until a stifled truth found its voice. What happens when trust is broken at the altar? This is a story about choices, courage, and the liberation that comes from the truth. Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is Linda Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. The wedding dress weighed heavily on Scarlett's shoulders, not just because of the meters of fabric and delicate embroidery, but also due to the invisible burden that had accompanied her for months. Looking at herself in the mirror of the church's preparation room, she couldn't ignore the tightness in her chest that had followed her since the beginning of her relationship with Andrew. "You look absolutely stunning," commented her stepmother Eleanor, adjusting the veil with that calculated efficiency that characterized her. "Andrew won't be able to take his eyes off you." Scarlett forced a smile as she observed Eleanor through the reflection. At 55 years old, the woman maintained a severe elegance, with impeccably styled hair and a navy blue dress that seemed designed to convey authority. She had entered Scarlett's life 5 years ago, just months before the unexpected death of her father, and since then had taken on the role of advisor and guardian, roles that Scarlett at 28 no longer needed. "Are you nervous, dear?" Eleanor asked, her alert eyes studying every reaction. "I just need a moment. Alone, if you don't mind," Scarlett replied, keeping her voice steady. When Eleanor finally left, Scarlett took a deep breath. How did she get there? 8 months ago, she was finishing her master's degree in literature, planning to open her own bookstore with the inheritance her father had left. Then Andrew appeared, introduced by Eleanor, of course, and everything happened at breakneck speed. Scarlett walked to the window, watching the guests arriving. She thought of Ethan. Even after 3 years, her heart still ached at the thought of him. Her first and true love. The photographs that showed Ethan embracing another woman still burned in her memory. Photos that were sent to her stepmother Eleanor, and she had shown Scarlett. Ethan's face, trying to explain that it wasn't him, swearing that something was wrong, still haunted her. A sound in the hallway caught her attention. She recognized Andrew's voice. Deep, controlled, that tone he used in important negotiations. Instinctively, Scarlett moved closer to the slightly open door. "Everything is going as we planned," Andrew was whispering. "After the wedding, I'm sure I can convince her to put my name as the administrator of the properties. She trusts me implicitly." A pause. He was on the phone. "Eleanor has been instrumental. Without her, I would never have gotten so close to the inheritance. Scarlett is smart, but she has been emotionally vulnerable since she lost her father. Easy to manipulate. No, don't worry. That old boyfriend is completely off the radar since we sent the photos." Scarlett's world collapsed. The words pierced like blades, each syllable cutting through the last illusions she still held. The tightness in her chest finally made sense. It wasn't pre-nuptial anxiety. It was her instinct screaming. Andrew continued, "I have the prenuptial agreement ready, and I drafted it exactly as Eleanor suggested. It seems to protect Scarlett, but the loopholes will give us control over everything within a few years. The girl has no idea." Scarlett's legs trembled. She stepped back from the door, her mind processing years of manipulation. How Eleanor was always present when she met potential suitors, subtly discarding anyone who seemed independent or questioning. How Andrew appeared at the perfect moment, when she was still vulnerable from the anniversary of her father's death. The dress now felt like a straitjacket. This wasn't her wedding day. It was the pinnacle of a meticulously planned trap. A light knock on the door made her quickly compose herself. "Miss Scarlett, it's time," announced the ceremony coordinator. Her first impulse was to run. Tear off the dress, escape through the back of the church, disappear. But then an unusual calm enveloped her. Her father always said, When you find out you're in an unfair game, don't run from the table. Change the rules. I'm ready, she replied, adjusting the veil over her face. To the sound of the organ, Scarlett walked down the central aisle. Each step was painfully conscious. She saw the smiling faces of the guests, most of whom were friends of Eleanor and Andrew, people she barely knew. In the front row, Eleanor displayed a triumphant smile. At the altar, Andrew waited for her with a confident expression, as if concluding a lucrative deal. When she reached the altar, Scarlett observed Andrew through the veil, seeing beyond the charming facade that had deceived her for months. How had she not noticed before? The dinners where he subtly questioned her about her finances, the sudden interest in the inherited properties, the insistence on having the wedding quickly. Before we proceed, Scarlett interrupted the pastor, her voice surprisingly firm, there's something I need to say. An uneasy silence took over the church. Scarlett slowly lifted the veil, revealing a serene face, almost detached from the situation. I cannot continue with this charade. Andrew's face turned pale. Scarlett, dear, you are nervous. It's normal. I'm not nervous, Andrew. I'm perfectly lucid, for the first time in months. She turned to face the guests. I apologize to everyone who came sincerely, but I cannot marry a man I just heard confess that this marriage is nothing more than a strategy to gain access to my inheritance. Shocked murmurs filled the room. Eleanor stood up, her face a mask of controlled indignation. Scarlett, you are not thinking clearly, Eleanor intervened. It's the nerves talking. It's interesting that you mention that, Eleanor, Scarlett replied, turning to face her, because I heard Andrew mention how you were instrumental in this plan. How you led me to it. How you helped him draft a prenuptial agreement that appears to protect me but actually strips me of everything my father left. Andrew stepped forward, his face now a mixture of anger and despair. You don't know what you're saying. Eleanor, do something. But Scarlett wasn't finished. For years I believed you cared about me, that you were protecting me. Now I see that you were just isolating me, manipulating me for your own interests. She removed the engagement ring and placed it on the altar. There will be no wedding today, not ever. With a dignity she didn't know she possessed, Scarlett descended the steps of the altar and walked down the central aisle, leaving behind a stunned silence, followed by a growing murmur. She didn't look back to see Andrew collapsing or Eleanor trying to control the chaos. Her legs guided her away, to the fresh air beyond the church doors, to liberation. 3 days later, the doorbell of Scarlett's small apartment rang insistently. For a moment, she considered not answering it. After the scandal at the church, she had isolated herself, turning off the phone and avoiding any contact. But something propelled her to the door. Andrew was there, no longer the confident and controlled man, but a diminished version, with deep dark circles and the appearance of someone who hadn't slept for days. 5 minutes, he pleaded. That's all I'm asking for. Against her better judgment, Scarlett allowed him to come in, keeping a safe distance. I came to ask for forgiveness, he began. Forgiveness? Or did you come to make sure I won't expose you any further? Andrew's silence confirmed her suspicion. There's nothing you can say to fix this, Scarlett stated. I know. I'm not here to try to fix it. He sat down, running his hands through his dishevelled hair. I'm here because you deserve to know the whole truth, not just about me, but about Eleanor. Scarlett crossed her arms, incredulous. Now you're the messenger of truth. Eleanor planned everything from the beginning, not just our relationship, but... He hesitated. Also the end of your relationship with Ethan. Scarlett's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? The photos you saw, the ones showing Ethan with another woman, were fake, elaborate fabrications. Eleanor hired people to create the situation, photographed from specific angles. That woman didn't even know Ethan. She was paid to be in the staged photos. Scarlett felt as if the ground vanished beneath her feet. You're lying. I'm not. Eleanor discovered that her father had altered the will. Before she would receive a considerable portion of the inheritance, in the new version, everything went directly to you. She needed a way to control that money. Ethan was inaccessible to her. He didn't serve her purposes. Memories flooded Scarlett. The shock of seeing the photos, the pain on Ethan's face as he denied everything, the confusion when witnesses confirmed the story. How had she been so blind? After you broke up with Ethan, it was easy for Eleanor to get close, to become your advisor. She wanted you to marry someone she could manipulate. Someone like me, desperate for money and willing to follow instructions. Silent tears ran down Scarlett's face, not from sadness but from a profound anger and the painful understanding of lost time. Why are you telling me this now? Because Eleanor is planning her next move. She won't give up easily. And because... He hesitated. Maybe I want to believe there's still something salvageable in me. When Andrew finally left, Scarlett remained still, processing everything. The revelation about Ethan was a reopened wound and, at the same time, a glimpse of hope. For 3 years she had believed in a lie that had destroyed what they had. And if there was still a chance. The road stretched out before her as Scarlett drove to the coastal town where she knew Ethan lived now. Each mile travelled was a reflection on the past years, how her father's death had left her vulnerable, how Eleanor had filled the void with manipulation disguised as care, how every major decision in her life had been subtly guided by hands that were not her own. She stopped at the lookout that offered a view of the ocean, the same ocean she and Ethan had gazed at together years before, making plans that seemed inevitable. She remembered how he talked about opening a small cafe, a place where people could feel at home among books and conversations, how she dreamed of managing her father's properties in a way that would benefit the community, dreams that had been interrupted by an elaborate lie. The sun was beginning to set when she reached the address she had obtained. A small blue wooden house, with a porch facing the sea and a modest but well-tended garden. And there he was, Ethan, crouched among flower beds, hands in the soil, just as she remembered. More mature, but undeniably the same man who had never left her heart. As she got out of the car, Ethan looked up, freezing as he recognized her. For a painful moment neither of them moved, separated by meters of distance and years of hurt. Scarlett. His voice was uncertain, as if he feared she were a mirage. I discovered the truth, she said simply, her voice faltering. About the photos, about everything. Ethan stood up slowly, wiping his hands on his jeans. After 3 years? I know it's late. Probably too late. The tears she had held back throughout the journey finally overflowed. But I needed you to know that I found out what Eleanor did, how she manipulated those images, how she paid people to lie. I believed her lies and destroyed what we had, and I will never forgive myself for that. Ethan remained still, his face a complex mix of emotions. I tried to tell you. I tried to make you believe me. I know. And I'm sorry for not having trusted you. She took a hesitant step towards him. I'm not here to ask you to forgive me or to expect that you still feel something for me. I just needed you to know that now I know the truth. That you were always honest. A heavy silence settled between them, filled only by the sound of the waves crashing in the distance. Finally, Ethan spoke. When you left, I swore I would forget you. I tried. For years. His eyes met hers. But I never could. Part of me always knew there was something wrong, that you wouldn't have believed those lies without some external influence. Eleanor manipulated every aspect of my life after my father died. I was so vulnerable, so lost. Scarlett shook her head. It's not an excuse. It's just the reality that I couldn't see. Ethan finally approached, closing the distance between them. What happened? What made you finally find out? Scarlett told him everything. The almost wedding, Andrew's confession, Eleanor's betrayal. With every word, She saw understanding growing in Ethan's eyes, the anger over the manipulation giving way to a painful understanding. "So you never married him?" Ethan concluded. "No. I found out the truth minutes before the ceremony." She smiled sadly. "Apparently, I have a history of discovering important truths about the men in my life at the worst possible times." A small smile appeared on Ethan's face, the first one, lighting up his eyes in the way Scarlett remembered so well. Some would say these are the best moments, before it's too late. The sun now tinged the sky orange and pink, casting a golden glow over both of them. Scarlett felt a timid hope rekindling in her chest. "What do you do here? In this town?" she asked. Ethan gestured towards the house. "I bought this place 2 years ago, and that shop there on the corner. Can you see it? It's a cafe. Small, but it's growing." Scarlett's heart raced. "You achieved your dream." "Part of it," he replied, his gaze meaningful. In that moment, something broke between them. Not destructively, but like a wall finally giving way. Ethan reached out, hesitant, and Scarlett took his hand. The simple touch of skin against skin began to dissipate years of pain. "It won't be easy," he warned. "There's much to rebuild, trust to restore." "I know," Scarlett nodded. "But now I have clarity. About Eleanor, about my father, about what I truly want in life. And mostly, about what I've always felt for you." Ethan gently pulled her closer. "Do you think we can start over? Not from scratch. We carry too much history for that. But from an honest place." "That's all I want," Scarlett responded, her voice firm for the first time in years. The kiss they shared was both a return and a new beginning. As the sun set over the ocean, Scarlett understood that her true revenge against those who had tried to manipulate her wasn't in exposing or destroying them. It was in reclaiming her own life, in rediscovering the love she should never have lost, and in finally living according to her own choices. Eleanor and Andrew had lost their power over her the moment the truth came out, and now, in Ethan's arms, with the future unfolding before them like a blank book waiting to be written, Scarlett finally understood the words her father always repeated. The greatest freedom lies in being true to oneself. That was only the first chapter of her new story. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.